Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese is currently on a 5 day diplomatic mission in China, and the timing couldn't be more revealing. While Washington pressures Australia to increase their defense spending from 2%, which they currently do, to 3.5%, which they don't want, and encouraging them to reduce economic ties with Beijing, Albanese is doing the exact opposite. He's brought leaders from major Australian banks and mining companies with him to China to strengthen trade partnerships with Zhongguo, the titan of Asia, with green energy collaboration taking center stage. China's green technology is absolutely booming, from solar panels to electric vehicles and the batteries in them. It's insane how far China is moving in this direction. It highlights Australia's economic reality, this visit from the Prime Minister. It's a continent sized country rich in iron ore, coal, other minerals, and they all are sold for Australia's prosperity. They're sold to China to fuel their industrial machine. I was going to say war machine, but no. Just machine for the time being. Crucially, China trades with Australia without imposing political or military conditions, simply buying what they need. The US, on the other hand, is the former world hegemon, this sort of former superpower which dominated the world, and that means that the American state thinking is still rooted in the superiority complex, wielding Australia as a weapon, right? Ideally. Both Australian citizens, though, and their government don't take kindly to this approach, especially as American prestige has tanked globally and no one wants to be the ally of a has been superpower that still has these delusions of grandeur, but on the face of it, in reality, they're falling flat. The US under Trump has imposed tariffs on Australia despite their alliance. It's a growing trend, of course, that we've seen. It's actually safer to be an American adversary. Like, you don't see tariffs on North Korea or Iran or Russia because their trade is already trash with America. But the countries or the blocs that do trade a lot with America, like the EU, like Japan, like South Korea, they're the ones being slapped with the fattest tariffs in the world. Canada, Mexico, just yesterday, well, just a few days ago, I still need to make a video on that. Canada and Mexico got a 30% tariff just slapped on them. And America's even reviewing an AUKUS submarine partnership on Australia's defense spending decision, right? That's another big one because that was already a like a contestable decision. It was already a contestable deal. Many Australians do not take kindly to this idea that they need 3 to 5 submarines for $300 billion. And on top of that, Trump is like, this deal is not good enough for America. Let me just review the deal, see if we can add more strings. That's not a good idea. Now, American officials often refer to Australia as America's unsinkable aircraft carrier, but Australian citizens clearly want their own prosperity to take center stage, not them serve as Washington's military outpost. Meanwhile, Albanese maintains a pragmatic stance. He says, quote, we will cooperate with China where we can. We'll cooperate with China where we can, disagree where we must, and engage in our national interest. That was so bad. National interest. I still need to work on my Australian accent. Okay, anyway. Recent polling reveals that only 1 in 5 Australians view China as a primary threat, with most favoring practical relationship management over confrontation. And it makes sense. Uh, Australia's exports to China are 10 times what they are to America. Economically, Australia is way more closely tied with China than they are with the US. We'll get to that in a bit. Now, 63% of Australians still believe America would defend Australia if Australia was attacked. But that represents a notable decline from previous years where more of the population thought, yeah, of course, America's got our back. 63 is now actually not that high. And also, an attack from who? Now the ask seems to be that the US is going to attack China, or China's going to attack the US, and Australia, you better be by my side. So that's not Australia defending itself. And that's not America coming to Australia's aid. That's America dragging Australia into a pointless, for Australia, a pointless conflict potentially. Australia, I have to clarify, I'm not saying Australia is abandoning its US alliance, but it is clearly refusing to let Washington dictate its economic future. especially since China has ballooned into Australia's top market. With Australia's ally, the US, Australia does about $20 billion worth of trade every year. With China, it does 10 times as much, $200 billion, making up about 30% of Australia's total exports. So they have a legacy military and cultural alliance with the US, or ties with the US, but much more real, practical economic ties to China now. And they don't just want to pick a camp, they just want to live their best kangaroo corralling lives, right? They've already got spiders the size of like sheds, or let's say big dinner plates. Okay, a country that has spiders yay big does not need new fresh issues, or especially not like, oh, let's jump into this great power versus great power conflict, shall we? Yeah, mate. No, mate. Right, this balancing act Australia has to play between the two great powers reflects a reality that middle powers like Australia are moving into, a reality where they prioritize themselves and try not to take sides because it's not beneficial for them to do so, to take sides. Ideally, it's beneficial for them to stay the hell out of any mess. It's a situation other Pacific states are in too, mind you. Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, the Philippines, India, they're all considering their own security and prosperity, and each to their own, based on their own situation. Japan and South Korea economically may be drifting away from the US towards China. Taiwan, for example, flirting with the idea of unification as the most prosperous, most safe bet in the future. There's a lot going on, and it definitely suggests a change in the world order in the Pacific, at least. The regional order in the Pacific definitely is no longer China and then a string of US allies. It's more like China and then others who were US allies, but now they don't really want to get stuck in a war that the US starts, or fight China, or on behalf of the US. The things are shifting, right? More countries are seeing America getting more and more aggressive in their economic and military posturing, and all see the US basically treating them as outposts or aircraft carriers or whatever else they want to call these countries, right? A US tool in some way, basically. More and more of these countries, after getting the treatment from America, this sort of tough friends treatment. Like, you're my ally, but here, enjoy these tariffs. Oh, please, no, yes, here's another 20%. That sort of, that treatment they're getting is forcing them to drift out of the American orbit and potentially into a Chinese orbit that focuses is a different planet, right? In the Chinese orbit, the focus is on mutual economic prosperity, not a relationship servant master style based on the small guy serving as the water balloon for the great power. Like, you're just my water balloon. I can just chuck you at whoever I want, whenever I want. I lob you at the enemy. You hit the enemy, you explode on impact. Your whole country's finished. It's exploded, right? This analogy is going somewhere, I think. But at least the enemy's wet. Like, most countries don't want to be the water balloon for America that is lobbed at China, right? Time will tell how things turn out. And I'll be here to report to you the news and the analysis, sometimes with a croaky, broken voice, but always as muffles. I'll see you on the next one. That was a weird ending. Oh, sorry, yeah, unbiased and without the Western spin. Can't believe I missed that part.